basically the thought around that is Zimbabweans, we need to come together to just find space where we can dialogue on principles, on values which contribute towards cohesive society, or which contribute towards a cohesion in the society that we live in. So, as you will see today, we are focusing mainly on the youth and the issues that will be brought to your attention. But the whole idea is that we are facilitating or providing space for different actors. It could be from the churches, it could be from the private sector, civil society organizations, maybe traditional leaders, so that they can just find time for their busy schedules in there, just a few hours, to say, these are things that we value, and these are things that if we feel we can commonly understand, have a same appreciation, and use them in the different spaces. It could be in the churches, it could be businesses, it could be in the homes. Those could help us have a successful Zimbabwe, or at least the Zimbabwe that we want. So this morning we are here as colleagues who have been invited. I think we will hear who is here and what organization they are coming from. But the essential idea is that we have this particular space around particular issues, and I don't want to preempt the facilitator and where we are supposed to go and how we're supposed to do it. But all of us, I think we are seized with the issue of elections, and they become the usual cycle, 5 years, we have elections in Zimbabwe. But what does it really mean? Is it just a process, a 2-day, 1-day process? Or should it be a process then that shapes the way that we appreciate each other, we respect each other, we engage with each other? Yes, it's a democratic space that we're given, but what does that democratic space translate to in the day-to-day lives of Zimbabweans? There's a lot of resources going towards election at the moment, but they soon dwindle after the elections. If we have the same zeal that we have in mobilizing resources for elections, if we have that same passion for issues to do with employment, if we have the same passion around issues to do with climate change, the same passion around issues to do with gender, then in those 5 years when people are in power, we would actually see a transformation. But we see a lot of effort, a lot of zeal only around the 1-day or 2-day process. But after that, people, it seems, it fades, and there's no momentum to push us or galvanize us around an area of interest. So this morning, I just want to welcome you on behalf of our the 2 other organizations. We have helped to bring you together, and just wish you the best in terms of the deliberations, but also, I think at the end of the day, to be able to say, what is it that we take from this process to use in our different spaces? I think most of us, like you said, we hear from where you're coming from. It's not all about you being here, but being able to say at the end of this process, I'm taking this and I should be able to use it in this space which I occupy in my day-to-day life. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Electrically for gender, the build-up, if we would so show the same zeal regarding the zeal, looking at the zeal that we have when we are running towards election, truly our Zimbabwe will be different. But I believe that what causes people to have zeal is a vision. What is it that you are looking at? In whatever you are doing, because you have a vision, you want to see something come out of that situation. Surely you have the zeal to make sure it's maintained and it's shaping up. It's a build-up until you see it. So I think it's important, this meeting that we're having, especially as young people, what is the vision that you have? The Bible talks of that my people perish for lack of vision. Do Zimbabweans have a vision? Are we building our values because we are building towards this vision that we have? Is it for everyone? Are we seeing the same things? Today we are challenging the youth to begin to speak into these issues, and for that We have our facilitator, Mr. Mamumbe, to guide and lead us, and he's got his own style of even introducing us. So we want to see what is going to happen. I hope at the end of the day, there will be a zeal in us that will cause us to want or to be pushed to do something. You know, sorry, I always refer to the Bible, and I am reminded of Jeremiah who says with the zeal of the Lord is like a fire in my bones, and yet to speak even adverse things would happen to him, but because he had the zeal that was pushing him, he wanted to see something, he could not be, people could not gag him, he continued to speak. So for that, this morning we welcome you, Mr. Mamumbe, and we give you the space to lead us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That defines you. The United Nations defines something, the Commonwealth as something. The government of Zimbabwe defines it as something under the Zimbabwe Youth Council Act. Different ministries define it differently from the Youth Council Act. So there is no universal agreement as to what youth are. But certainly, it's not just a feeling. Because I feel youthful does not make me a young person. So we want this process to be youth-driven from the very word core in terms of the issues that we need to grapple with. We cannot ignore the environment around us, the crisis that surrounds us. We cannot ignore the fact that in the next few months into 2018 is going to be an election year. We cannot ignore that. But we gather here to express our shared values. We also need to define what values are. What are the values? What are the shared values? Why shared? Why not just values? The Constitution of Zimbabwe, Section 1, subsection 3, is about values. Those are what the people of Zimbabwe say, these are our values. Now we bring in issues of constitutionalism. Do we uphold those values? Are we living them? Without much ado, let's do a few introductions. This is how I want us to introduce ourselves today. Just turn to the person next to you. In 30 seconds to 45 seconds, tell them who you are, one, what you do, where you come from, two, tell them what your expectation for this workshop is. And if you have any serious fear, you may also confide in them. You tell the person next to you, everyone must get a partner. That shouldn't take you more than a minute, and vice versa. And then you are going to tell us, I'm going to introduce, for example, sitting next to me is Mr. Pride. I would have to say this is Pride, works for, has been in, has gone through, and this is what Pride hopes this dialogue is going to achieve. I think it is important that we do it that way, because the idea behind why we have you here is not so that after we have dialogue we will come up with some code unique which we will try and send all over. But we believe it is the beginning of a process. We may not change Zimbabwe overnight through ZBC, Newsday and stuff like that, but one person at a time. And we believe that you as ambassadors of young people, when you live here, you will live with a certain way of looking at things, a certain way of valuing things, a certain way after an exchange that will make you say, this is what we value as Zimbabweans. And if we can change one person at a time, Africa and indeed Zimbabwe will definitely become a better place. And we will get to what we call the Zimbabwe we desire, the Zimbabwe we want, the Zimbabwe we charter, all sorts of things. Those are things that I think we'll make reference to as we go. So just turn to the person next to you. And I'll be happy if you're sitting to someone who you know, it's okay to shift so that you sit with someone who you don't know. So I hope you're not sitting to someone who you know. If you are, you might have hold certain values. So they wanted someone, and I'm sure we'll get someone to help us on that. Unfortunately, the speakers were lined up in emergency meetings. Just to come and break up in 5 minutes, the eyes on where Zimbabwe is coming from, and we are in a crisis. We have so many issues that are not in order. Not that we are a career state, maybe someone may say we are, I am not too sure. But what accounts for the problems that we have today? What have we not upheld? What values have we not upheld? What values have we violated? And then, of course, the third person was going to kind of break the ice for us in terms of what should we do? What should we value so that we take Zimbabwe forward? what should the young people and everyone else in society uphold as principal values so that we go forward. So I'm going to ask one or two people to help us on that in 5 minutes and so forth so that we break forward. But before we go on, so many things were being said here. Number one, the issue of values and the issue of dialogue. I don't know if we have a common understanding of what values are. What are values? Can we get it from the floor so that we at least begin to talk about values, knowing what values are? It doesn't have to be the dictionary definition. It is a sense of what you think are values. The problem with dictionary definitions is that you'll have to study it for you to uphold it. But we don't want that which you read. We want you to say, this is what I think is a value. It is something that so that we have an understanding of what these values are.
For example, I come from a family. There are still things that are associated with my family. For example, how do we greet each other? How do we show that we are happy with a particular event? How do we, for example, celebrate achievement? All those things then boil down into values. You can then probably very scientifically say it's a systematic way. These are systematic norms that define any society. And normally it's simply to distinguish that which is bad from that which is good. So that Latin, what I would call, the flow from bad to good, the various things that happen in between, are what, in my own view, constitute a value for any particular group or society.
Okay. Can we ever go?
For example, I come from a family. There are still things that are associated with my family. For example, how do we greet each other? How do we show that we are happy with a particular event? How do we, for example, celebrate achievement? All those things then boil down into values. You can then probably very scientifically say it's a systematic way. These are systematic norms that define any society. And normally it's simply to distinguish that which is bad from that which is good. So that Latin, what I would call, the flow from bad to good, the various things that happen in between, are what, in my own view, constitute a value for any particular group or society.
Okay. Can we ever go?
I was just going to say, for me, in my own words, rather, a value to me is something that this is at the bottom of my heart, something that I really find, I'll just say, very important. Yeah, it sits somewhere. It's really something that I desire, and it sits at the bottom of my heart. That's the value to me.
It's what you desire.
Yeah, it's what I desire. It's something that
It's personal.
It's not personal necessarily, like I said, according to me.
Yeah, everything is according to you. That's super fine.
Yeah. Something that sits like, it's vested something in my heart, something that I always desire to see. That's a value.
That's a value. All right. What are guidelines? And who is who? Who is we?
Okay, I'll probably, in explaining that, I'll refer back to Pride's explanation, where we say those are the norms, the things that we value the most, our day-to-day guidelines, our day-to-day behavioral actions that we do in society. In those actions, we value.
Some dead values that we uphold, around being self-centered, around greed, and those are dead values.
Being self-centered is a value that Zimbabwean can be treasured, right?
Identity.
Sorry?
Identity.
Identity
Yes.
is a value.
What surrounds me, at the end of the day, what will we say about me?
All right? What will we say about him talks to the values that you hold.
Yeah. That my identity at the end of the day, it gives you a picture of the values that I uphold and the values that I don't uphold.
All right. Combining with Samantha, we pass the next more. Do my values have those no consider that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I was going to say that, when I said that there is a continuum within which you have to look at values. Was what? And then there are two ways to look at them. You can look at them in the normative context. They're trying to move from a particular reality into a new reality, so it becomes aspirational. So if you then read what is now Constitution, we are aspiring to be that way we have not been for a long time. So then it goes back to what has been a very huge debate. It was, like you said, also historic, the social contract. To say, instead of them saying that, so some of the values he says are morals. Yes, actually morals can be part of values. But the law itself emanates to then say we can select some of our best values and say let's codify this and create consequences out of it. And then say, even if they are not written in a law, there's nothing that happens to you when you violate a value. That's not true. Where I come from, in the ancient times, Mashona Munaita Karoya, Kantuanita some or break a particular value, you could be chased away from the kingdom. But there was no law that was written down for you to be able to do that. In groups, in group charging, I mean, even on WhatsApp group, someone violates a particular value, they can be forced out of that group. Nothing has happened as you think of incarceration or so. Also, society is actually more, I believe society is a more way of dealing with a person. So it can actually be named and shamed. I mean, no one wants to be named and shamed. We have this scandal of the earth. So such a social contract exists between individuals, between groups, so that we have a mutual existence. So like I said, they can be normative. In the sense, for example, where she was saying they can be paid values. For a game can have values. So one of our values is that before you join us, you must kill someone. It can be a value in a game, but that's a very bad value. So in the aspirational sense, then look at those positive values that brings the best out of humanity and drive towards a mutually shared contract within and among society.
Then we have different types of values.
Yeah.
There are categorizations of values. We cannot just say Zimbabwe's shared values. What do we mean Zimbabwe's shared values? Which type? I saw somewhere where it says there are instrumental values and there are terminal values. A terminal value is happiness. I value happiness. An instrumental value will be honesty. I have to be honest. It's an instrument, it's a tool. I hope you realize the importance of this. It will be easy for us to run down and come up with 50 values, which is what we're going to do. But we need to get a grasp of them. Are we sure this is what we have agreed is a value? By all the kind of definitions that we are hearing. Values, good values, bad values. Anyone wants to give another shot? Sure.
Okay. I want to in the context of Zimbabwe, or in the context of any society, there are issues that resonate with the general populace. We talk of social and economic justice, we talk of accountability, we talk of transparency. If those things are lacking, the masses suffer, and then the masses complain.
Okay, fine. How can't the value
in the context of Zimbabwe, or in the context of any society, there are issues that resonate with the general populace. We talk of social and economic justice, we talk of accountability, we talk of transparency. If those things are lacking, the masses suffer, and then the masses complain.
Okay, fine. How can't the value here to dialogue? Sure.
Discuss.
Discuss. Why are we not saying, come to the discussion? Why are we saying, come to the dialogue? All right, discuss is the dialogue. Yeah. Sorry?
Interaction between two or more people.
Interaction between two or more people is a dialogue. So people are dialoguing all over. I'm sick of dialogues.
Discussing a common goal.
Sure, those are they will be discussing common goals, I'm sure. No, I'm not taking it away. I'm saying I just want you to know that if 2 or 3 gather in the name of discussing a common goal, it's called a dialogue. That's fair.
Free sharing ideas.
Free sharing of ideas. That's it. I don't have much that I want to talk about except to convince you guys that being gay is the way to go. I've had personal gay experiences and I think it's fantastic. Besides, it's beneficial. That's a dialogue.
And I'll say, I don't agree.
So we dialogue. Okay.
It's a discussion that is aimed to solve the problem.
A discussion a problem.
Where
That's a dialogue. There must be a problem.
Yeah. An issue.
There must be an issue, there must be a problem. If there's no issue, if there's no problem, it's not a dialogue. Or it's the same, because probably in the other dialogues they spoke about elections, they spoke about development issues. Why should this make it? And probably they've covered all the areas and issues. Why should this be important?
I think it's very important because it needs to be about, because we are not taking over, not taking over. We are the future of this country, so we should be able to understand what is going on in the moment and how we can be involved in whatever the spaces that we should be. So,
Youth involved, we should be involved.
or we should involve ourselves.
We should involve ourselves.
Yeah, I think why dialogue is critical with young people is looking at it from the perspective of the youth approach. For me, that is critical in terms of the role of young people, given their demographic, dividend. How many percent of our total population are young people? That informs why young people should probably be at the center of different discussions, and probably within even the broad African context, that is the direction in terms of everyone seeing the future, coming from young people. So it's a specific, demographic dividend that has to be dealt with because of the role that they play today and in the future. Because, for example, in the aspect of peace, if we are to go into a conflict, the actors, most of the actors will be young people. So to avoid such a conflict, to control such a conflict, or to be in that conflict, young people play that kind of central role in execution mode of that particular agreed phenomenon. And if we are going for elections to an extent, that kind of result. So for me, it's very critical to have. And then if we are to uphold peace, which is what I desire, I think young people are key in terms of trying to inculcate that kind of value system with them around the issue.
I think bringing lots of very important dynamics on the importance of why we should gather with young people. I just want to scale it up a little, right? So that if Robert Mugabe and Morgan Tsvangirai agree that we are going to beat the hell out of each other, I don't know how they get to such an agreement. Where does this put our dialogue in here? We must be able to say, as young people, notwithstanding that there is this divide, this polarization, how do we begin to ensure that, notwithstanding that there are elders, there are social leaders, political leaders that occupy certain spaces, and young people maybe like us that may not occupy those spaces, how do we begin to say this dialogue is important in that? How is it relevant if two people are going to say, let's butcher each other tomorrow and Harare becomes a blood area, but it's young people beating each other. How does this space become important? How can we make it important? How can we magnify it? How can we up it?
Okay, I think I will address the point that was, should I say, participation of youth in probably democratic processes in Zimbabwe. In some societies, we find that there is limited participation, and then there is lack of knowledge with regard to democratic processes, leading to the abuse of youth by politicians. So I find it very important for youth dialogue to really focus more on educating the youth so that they participate from the position.
Thank you.
The reality, the existing reality, was one of the biggest constants in any society is change, and even within the values themselves, one of their constant features that they change over time. And for a society to change from one mode to the next, it has to take its young people to do that. So such dialogues are then to hope that the young people can then begin to challenge the existing scenarios. For example, if but you say in China, I say, open to beat each other. They say, okay, let's create a boxing ring for me. And we will happily watch the match. That voice coming from young people then mean a lot, because now begin to challenge the status quo and having new dynamic ideas. That is the hope why probably then there's not need for that continuous engagement and dialogue within young people.
Oh, good. Thanks. I think if we're going to issue a communique, the first line, if one is going to allow us, will be, if anyone is going to fight, particularly political leaders, will create a ring for you and we will watch you and cheer you up. All right? Sure.
I think having youth dialogues is an important part of the process of consolidating the influence that young people have over. Yeah. There's that saying that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And in this case, I think it's the youth that suffer because they're the ones that are fighting on behalf of these giants. But without really consolidating each other's ideas and everything as youth, we are just victims of that process and we can't control the decisions that they make.
All right. All right.
Okay. Father Mkono's shoes are very, very hard to fit, and so I will not make an attempt to fit them. But I will speak from my experience, is particularly with this dialogue process. We started off the dialogue process last year with 15 influential individuals, including Father Mkonori, Dr. Shingenenyeza, Bella Matabalazo, Farai Mufunya, amongst others. And it has been a very interesting journey. And, you know, as I've been thinking about it, I've been thinking that it's a process of becoming as Zimbabweans. As we discuss the issue of values, as we discuss the issues that bring us together. So recently, I've really become obsessed with the need for our nation to decide its development trajectory and to start implementing it. And you know, as we all know that we're in a society that is inundated by a myriad of social ills, very depressing is our environment, that we mostly fail to see the good that we have and the potential that we hold as a society. And we fail to realize that for the few people or nations that rose from their ashes, they had much to work with, you know, in terms of resources, you know, like lots of money, a vibrant economy, but they had their passion, their vision, and their determination to work with. And I think that's where values come in. I believe that we're matters of our development. And, you know, quite interestingly, when I looked up the word passion, one of the definitions stated that the passion is suffering and death of Christ, is crucifixion, is pain, suffering, agony, and martyrdom. And I thought I could not have found a better definition and more relevant, more deeper meaning. And without turning most of you into believers, I must let you know that we only succeed if we are willing to go through the cost of development. And the full cost of development will be our willingness to die to our greed, pessimism, the victim mentality, laziness, apathy, and believe you me, all these things I'm mentioning have a lot to do with the kind of values that we uphold as a society at the moment. We need to crucify individualism because only a collective attitude will help us pick up the weight that pulls us down. In Shona we say, Charachime Hachikwani Inda. Our willingness to comply with an alternative and more progressive trajectory will be painful and might attract skepticism, but we need business individuals, churches, political entities, and faiths that are willing to become symbols of exceptional leadership and heroism in the face of difficult circumstances. The courage and commitment to be drivers of transformation should and must take place at all levels of our society, and each according to the cup that we can drink will succeed in influencing families, communities, cities, and even the whole nation. I speak about the cup that we're able to drink because we come from different backgrounds, and some have the privilege of being able to influence a whole nation, whilst others can, influence their friend. But that's still okay. This should all happen when we know what it is we're passionate about, which can be spelled out in a national vision. When we envision, we become. What we envision for our nation should be so simple that anyone, even a preschool child, can run with it. Typically, an N1 vision is unifying. It should never seek to exclude anyone on the basis of culture, religion, social class, political affiliation. It is infectious and it travels beyond all types of boundaries. Envisioning requires our ability to pull down our mental strongholds that restrain us from seeing our potential. And it simply means that we need to think more positively as a people and in line with our shared vision. We need to see our vision spoken in papers, in homes, schools, companies, and even political corridors. A sound vision will see us outpacing each other in order to achieve it. Currently, the vision that we have as a nation is that of division and regression, and it's evidenced by how our newspapers report these very negative stories and what our politicians say, and even the testimony of our political performance. And I mention these three things because they're the things that are very visible to us. When you walk out, we get to our Grenada and Enterprise traffic lights, you see what the headlines are saying today. I think today I read one that says, or is it yesterday, that says Zanu-PF on the verge of split. But let's not be fooled that it is our media, our politicians, and our economy that are wrong. Definitely, we, the citizens, have a role to play in all this because we do not demand a different narrative. In fact, we feed and we miniature this unfortunate narrative. It is possible for us to start speaking and to do differently, to speak unity and to do unity, to speak production and do production, to speak love and to do love, to speak transparency and do transparency. Visions come alive when we design them, when we speak them repeatedly and habitually put them into practice. There will be challenges in our road, on our road to success, and that's why we need the spirit of determination. We need to harness our determination. I really believe that for us Zimbabweans, that's something that we don't struggle with. It is something that we have in our DNA. Our country runs on the backs of the 10% that are formally employed. Tell me if that is not a miracle. I recently read an article in the Mail and Guardian that said that Zimbabweans always make a plan. And we do always make a plan in defiance of all odds. And I do not doubt that we have the ability to rise out of our ashes. There are things that we've been reasoned about as a nation. For example, everybody always says Zimbabweans are peaceful people, and we always get amazed, like the worst thing like 2 weeks ago can happen, prices rise, in a night, and still we make a plan, still we choose not to throw stones, and so we've not had violent reprisals in our society. We've not had war. This, I think, then it speaks to a lot of values that we uphold, that are very good, that keep us going. But I believe that it will be a good thing when we're able to, for example, in terms of peace, when we're able to achieve a more positive peace that is synonymous with a high quality of life, where we have access to basic amenities, dignified jobs, true happiness, and attaining high quality life where access to basic amenities are available for everyone is a collective effort. And this means that we need to redirect our determination. We cannot continue in the mentality that stipulates that as long as the family is well fed, then everything is okay. We need to go on a trajectory where everybody has enough. If if we continue on an individual trajectory, we always have just enough to keep ourselves alive, but never enough to live the Zimbabwean dream. We need to persevere for a bigger economy, to understand the bigger picture, and act in a way that benefits the collective. This means that our leaders should be there to serve the needs of our societies. Their transformative journey into servant leadership will be painful but rewarding. It also means that as individual citizens, we should serve each other. Again, it will be a painful journey, but a rewarding one, and our collective vision will help us achieve our national goals and determination. So really, I think this is where values come in, where we need to identify or re-identify those collective attitudes, those collective values that can help us forge in the same direction as a nation, and that can help us, determine what happens in our economy, what happens in our politics. I believe that if we demand certain things because of the values that we hold, definitely when a politician steps up to speak, there are certain things that they know they cannot say to the people of Zimbabwe. They cannot say to young people, as was said a few weeks ago, I think in Lawayo, in rally, they cannot stand up and say, if you see someone who is not moving in our direction, as young people, I give you the pass to get them and beat them, and then afterwards call the police. If we demand certain things as a society, and more importantly as a young people, then there are certain things that will not be said in our nation. So in terms of our history, I would also say that we've come from a violent history, and violent in the physical sense, but also violent in the structural sense, and we continue with that violence. We need to unlearn that violence as a society. It is there in our pre-colonial history. Definitely as Black people, we lived in a structurally violent environment, and we've continued on that trajectory post-independence, where seemingly our elite has sort of replaced the white leadership that we had. And so the struggle, I think, continues, but I don't think it should continue on a violent path. It should continue on a peaceful path, and part of it involves what we're doing here today, discussing values, so that we have, values become our ideology somehow. So it informs how we do politics, it informs how we do business, it informs how we do family life. With that, I'll stop here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. This place is not just forget about another talk show, another workshop, but we dialogue effectively, and it affects our thinking. And if your resources have come to affect just these that are here, I think it's a resource that is good, has been put to good use. If I can leave this place with a certain way of dealing with the value system and dealing with one another, I think that resource is well spent. And of course, it will be a bonus if we can come out of this place and begin this process in our different spaces. I want us to do an exercise, which I think, after the exercise, we will be not hiding behind a finger about what our values are, whether going into the elections or post-elections. We won't be hiding about a finger, we'll be knowing what is important. Or this exercise is going to force us to really think hard about what we value the most, that we are going to fight for, or maybe that we are even going to legalize, or that we are going to cast people out of our group for. Some Zimbabweans need to be thrown out of this country. But it is only when we have a conviction that this value is important. And it's where, I hope everyone got a little handout with the story that I tried to write. It's about the river.
Number one. Because
No. Tell us why Roka is not the best.
yeah, Roka is not the best in even my order. I put him as number 4 because he treated someone's effort to meet him, going through thick and thin, and did not respect the struggle, whichever form of payment that she had gone through, he did not accept that struggle.
Thank you for that.
How a person, I mean, literally called and popular is rallies with the most violent, most is likely to win an election anymore. So I think in what Thomas Jefferson said when they were crafting that system, said the system must not produce just a candidate loved by the majority, but it must produce a candidate that reflects the conscience of the moment. So what is the conscience of the moment? Is what the system will produce. So if the conscience of the moment is insecurity, is this, is that, if the national leadership is unable to define that, you get a leader who, from that system, at least what the American says, will reflect the conscience of the moment. And you are likely to think of Barack Obama.
You say conscience?
Of the moment. You look at Barack Obama, comes in after the financial crisis. Yes, we can. The conscience of America was more. We want something more food. We want to cling to something. Because the society was literally being swept by depression. Go back to 2000, the coming in of George Bush, especially after the so-called war on terror. I mean, if you then look at how the American system, from the time of George Washington up to now, the kind of leaders has always produced the generation. I mean, you can say, okay, so that was the conscience in the American community. And they've well measured it anyway. So one of the things is a lot of American middle-class people felt insecure by the policies of the liberals, by the coming in of immigrants. But they never supported it openly. They would never say, no, but what Trump would then speak and then reflect is that conscience of the moment that Jefferson said. That's not good just about the majority, the most popular person. In fact, the most popular person that came out to be Hillary Clinton has rejected the system. To say, no, the system must reflect that conscience of the moment. So I think it's something to then look at even internally here. To say, why do we hate this dictatorship, this so-called regime so much? What is the conscience we live with on a daily basis in our own homes? When your father comes home, steals money from his own wife and goes and drinks beer and claims he never saw it. The child comes and inflates school fees, that is one of the school. I mean, we're already a very little corrupt society in our own way. We steal church funds, go missing in organizations, all into spaces. And then we say, so that is the conscience of the moment. But then outward we say, we want transparency, we want accountability, not a dictatorship. We're going to the ballot and we vote for it.
This is most beautiful. Right. I will ask you, want you to say something, and then I'll come back to what is the conscience of the moment for Zimbabwe. How do we project that as young people, as the youth, going into elections? What is our position with regards to elections and the society that we belong to? I don't like seeing angry, frustrated people, especially soon after voting. If we could come up with a credible way of doing our elections, are we going to get what we need to take us forward? If not, are there alternatives to elections? Are there? Are there alternatives to elections?
Yes.
We want to hear about it. Okay.
Approach is rather enough when it speaks to the national question of the day. You know, beyond the conscience of the moment, there is to be the national question that elections must answer to, so that they are enough. Because if you track the history of elections, or even to go to what you are raising around the American system and the coming in of Donald Trump, there is a national question. There should be a general consensus. Look at what happened during the formation of the opposition movement in this country. 97, 99, you know, there was an agreement on which Zimbabweans in general called the national question. So that bound the people to say, even if for me in elections it speaks volumes because it is a mobilizing tool. It motivates people to decide whether I'm going to go vote or not. So at the current moment, if you are looking at it from a young people's perspective, the lack of interest by young people to go and register or to go and vote, as it were, is that there is not generally agreed on what is the national question. Because for me, it is then the tool that can then be used. This is what informed my manifesto. This is the national question, and people are in agreement. And then people will mobilize themselves naturally because they identify with the question of the day. So I think there is a real need of that identification of the socio-economic question of the day that can then be used to make a little central approach.
What is this question?
This chapter, I think most of Zimbabweans are schizophrenic on that.
Zimbabweans are?
Schizophrenic.
Can I put that?
The issue between the conscience and Christian, the conscience, from what I understand, it's about a young nation in terms of the population statistics, etc. A people who have never seen the good times or anything. That if you try to tell them that you can actually get a job, they've never seen anyone being employed. Going to school, getting an education, it's no longer a guaranteed key to opportunity in life. So generally, it's the people who say, no, we are not controlling, we are now the majority of the population, and it's a young nation. What they think or what they feel is ruled to do with material things, how to get rent, how to get SADSA, how to get even bundles, data bundles, how to get. So then, moving forward, the question is how to get it. You will find that the people at the home, across all political divide, they are old people. Yes, they may try to act like you to hear the president who is 92 years old saying he's Suma youth, but he's not a youth, he doesn't understand what the conscience of the general of the people. And also in the opposition equally, there are people who are now old and can no longer even understand what the conscience of the people. So there's a clear discord between the conscience and those who are offering themselves or who are presented with this use to answer to our national question. Of which that national question should be about the way forward. They, the people, don't understand our conscience, and so I think it's creating an air of disorientation, thus relegating the youth who are the majority, whose conscience is about moving forward, is about empowerment. So they'll say, I know it doesn't do regulations, don't do it, because they're not motivated. The poor are there's no difference in actually understanding their conscience. And even the way they will now answer to our national question is towards the way forward. It's the same, it doesn't appeal to our conscience, etc.
All right.
So, yeah.
How do you bring voter registration? In other words, I come to here. By the way, voter registration, I don't hear it being about the conscience. I don't hear the national question. I hear just bring your hand and put an X somewhere. Is our voter registration drive defunct, devoid of substance? Are we shizzled? Like he says, we're not thinking,
There's a use divergence of strategies in order to cross the river. I mean, in the context of Graliza, I think as youth coming from different backgrounds, we have different sets of shared values. We have different sets of values, but in terms of this process, what we're trying to do now is, despite the divergence of values, which are the most, what can I say, the most important ones to get us across the bridge, whatever the bridge is in terms of elections, but the shared values that can collectively help us cross the bridge. I don't know if I'm making sense here.
He brings in the word diversity. We'll have to grapple with whether this people say diversity is a good thing. I don't think so. I'll have to be taught and educated more about diversity. And he talks about sets of values. Huh? That is why we have the Gralisa, no, it's not Gralisa, it's Gralisa. The Gralisa club here, we have the Rogan club there, we have the Morgan club here, with their set of values. How do we play around with these sets of values? Because surely if Zimbabwe or Zimbabweans or the young people had a position, we won't even be needing to focus on driving each other to go and register to vote.
Yeah.
Will we? So we're working on the wrong thing. Political engine to put it, that mobilization, push a mod. Must go blow and that it pushing. Political engine. This is what I'm getting. All right. I didn't get someone. Okay, you and then you.
I think one of the most important things that should come up to make sense out of this gathering is that what comes out after the dialogue. Because we have been participating in dialogue, sitting down, taking issues, but nothing happens after that. So I think one thing which will define the success or the failure of this gathering is that we go out and mobilize and we identify, we look out for the right things. For example, usually people who complain about vote rigging are people who reside in the urban areas. Because we have access to social media and people will be complaining on social media, this and that, then we justify it, we disqualify the result. But we also forget that in as much as we want to reach out as many people as possible, we should also reach out to the rural areas. That's where the numbers are. That's where the majority of the Zimbabwean population are. But people will just go on social media, post, go out, register, vote this and that. But we forget to reach out to the people in the country, the people who matter in the election. People who need to be educated about the electoral process and how it works, how we can benefit out of it. So we need to come up with a strategy on how we are going to implement whatever comes out. Because sometimes we just leave this place, we go back into our spaces, now our jobs, and we sit down and we forget about this. We continue trying to mobilize it.
I wrote something down just in case I forget to point it out. As the youth, I think most of us were doing more on capacity to do the voter registration system. But then we can't also talk about the common value between the generation gap. The older generation, they fought the fight, they lived the life. But us, as the youth, we are suffering from unemployment. And when trying to mobilize the people to go and vote, we can't really air out that, guys, let us go vote because we like A, B, C, D. Because you might be considered on a political side, but yet you're just trying to motivate others to go and register, to go and vote for their voice, to make Zimbabwe a better place we want. So I think that's what I recommend.
Consciousness of the moment in Zimbabwe right now is not about what is the way forward or what are we voting for. It seems now to be more about who is the way forward and who are we voting for. And based on that, I think part of the voter apathy comes from the fact that, or the opinion that we don't really find someone who really stands for the youth in a way that addresses the issues that we are all very aware of. Issues of unemployment, all the things, and this has been going on for a lot of time. So I think in terms of thinking about who is there, so what's the point of even registering to vote?
For jobs. I did that. I don't understand why you guys talk about my vote meaning or not meaning anything. Because I did not vote for anything beyond a job. I voted for a job.
I would like to say, Mr. Noah, I think the problem that we have as youth or as Zimbabweans is the issue of being born mentality. When it comes to politics, the politicians have said that our mentality is a little bit flexible. We are short-sighted. Let's look at the votes. like Gralisa, well, because it was able to, because the situation was able to penetrate at the core of our emotions. Most ladies will say, I understand how it feels to do sex, to do what, so I think she's the best character. Then men will say, I understand what it means to be sacrificed for, so I think she's the best character. But after that, what happens, if we ever attempt to look at what's voting for a job, then what if the job doesn't come? What's the next year? What's the option B? What's the plan B? What is about to come? It will give you a sense of belonging. I'm Zanu-PF. Even if an MDC candidate comes with a better manifesto, I can't do anything because I have been given a sense of belonging in a post mentality that I'm Zanu-PF. So it's really, really difficult for the change to come and for the elections to be.
All right, okay, fine. Let's try and wind this one in. Pride.
Okay. But I wanted to, I don't think if it's still necessary according to the discourse that
it's okay.
There was a case to do on what you choose for the coins. I think the best definition of politics that I've ever come across is who gets what, when, and how. And I think even within our political activities, it's very reflective. Those who support Zanu-PF think they can get, like even in the raw area, it's about the land reform, it's about socio-economic issues, what you get with the livelihoods. Then we come to the opposition that those things are no, if you check, it's mainly in the urban areas. People are clamoring for jobs, they do not want cash shortages, they want electricity, they want water. These are livelihoods issues. Then if you check even the multiplicity of our parties in Zimbabwe, if you check what people follow, there's nothing ideological about most of them, they are over 50. But people say, no, you shoot this one. On the part of 15 billion, where that shit is taking around, so there is money. Then this one, there is a darling of the West, so you can get to money, that do not funds. Then this one, he was once in government in the connections with the international monetary institution. So it's all about socio-economic benefits, livelihoods, it's about SARS, it's about.
Right. That's important. I want us to do a rundown. Pride, sorry, 1 second. I want us to do a rundown about what we are going to vote for. Which must win? Huh? Is there anything like that? Because elections are important, as he says, because they are connected to our livelihood. So, if you guys want jobs, we must vote for jobs. And jobs must win so that we get jobs. Isn't it? That's how we wait an idiot. Alright, fine. Will you try to hold a second? Alright, say that.
Can I just contribute, following up on what my brother said here, about who gets what, where, and when, and how, because of that, it causes even the princes to increase. I'll just read something in the Bible. It says this: because of transgressions of a land, many are its princes. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, right will be prolonged. When it's talking about the princes, for me, it talks about even the people who are clamoring to go into politics. Because that's where we all have been conditioned to see that if I am a politician and I've got, you then have power, you are able to access resources, you are able to do whatever you want. So what do I do as an individual? I try and find my way to be one of the politicians, especially going into the ruling party, because there I know that even when I'm corrupt, I'm protected, and many things are accrue to me, and it just boils down to what will I get and how will I get it. It's also something to do with what Samantha said. It's about individualism. There's no longer feeling for another person, family values, and all those kind of things, because we are so much focused on what will I get, when, and how. So those are it's an individual question that we are asking. Unfortunately, as one of the others has said, we have never been in a society where you can say that after school I'll get a job, I get married, I get my own house, I begin to have my own children, they also go to school and things like that. It has not happened for a long time. Is there any reality in that? What we have seen is just politicians who are getting very rich. And, you know, and even those who are not educated, they are driving Prados, they have all sorts of things they're accumulating, and that's what attracts me, and that is what I am aiming for, even as a youth. So there's no longer about that, can we all get those Prados? Can we all, what is it that we can begin to do for each and every individual to be able to be lifted up economically, you know, to get rid of maybe poverty? If we talk about the urban and the rural, does it mean the rural person desires to live like that the rest of their life? Don't they have also aspiration of being somewhere and doing something? So at the end of it all, I think maybe the refocus that we should need to be doing, it's not necessarily voting for a job. How do I get to have the job? Where does it come from? What is needed for the job creation? Maybe it's more the questions that we need to grapple with, even as the youth. And how do we do that? How do we maybe coordinate, build one another up, so that, you know, things begin to change, maybe even in the same political discourse, but how can we make a difference? What is it that I can contribute? Maybe even in the community where I want to be voted for. What is it that I can contribute that people can then say, no, this one is a developer, they are bringing this and this into our community. Maybe let's vote them in, they will change our lives here. I think maybe those are the questions that need to be going around in our...
That's very, very important. Thank you for Relisa. The side that says, what I want to do is to get to Roge. How I get to Roge may not be as important as... that's what Zimbabweans maybe are like. I just want to get to Roge, I just want a prajo, I just want a big house, I want to stay in Tsibiti. I want that. And I also want it, he's not selfish. He wants it for his community, he wants it for the Manika people, he wants it for the Karanga people, he wants it for his clan. So he's going to do whatever it takes for his clan. But can one shika makarango kutebala. Mafamilo wamushita kame. Wongu wauya ukazotipa mapranto shamwa. Process your action decide. You're paying price.
I just think part of what I want to say is already been said. I'll just maybe put it in a different context, but then re-emphasize one of the most striking features of the moment, which probably I'll start with, which is, if you really listen to the discourse among us, the young people, so as youth, we must, also assume two positions of leadership. That is the discourse you hear. As youth, we really must, go and vote. We have this reasoning, and the reason, if you look at the premise, is that because you are youth, you must become a leader. There's nothing beyond that. And that's the most dangerous premise I've ever heard happen in any historical epoch. If you go back to the likes of Tongogara, Mnangagwa, Chitepos, when they were youth and they mobilized, they never said because we are youth, we must liberate this country, or because we are youth, we must replace the white people. They said liberation is a national imperative that everyone must be able to participate in. So now the blankness of that slogan, and it's quite getting, it's gathering momentum. And there's some pettiness to it. Because if you ask why do you want to decide, if we fast forward your years from 24 to 42, so just upside 10, 24 to 42. What changes from what you want to offer now, then, to Zimbabwe? And suddenly people become free voters. They tell you, no, let's not go there, as you have been sidelined for a long time, and all this. So the whole issue is also that, why I then think this platform is important, but one must also explore what are the effects of alienation. Because outside was economic inequality, which is the capitalist system. All the violence we've experienced as a result of economy creates conditions of alienation in the mind of the individual. So there's also the individual here. I'm here pride in Kona. I grew up in the area where I saw poverty in real time. So you have your own tattered check. That can be dealt with. But what can never go away is the alienation. That's why after 37 years after independence, someone does not feel adequate staying in high fields. They have to come and dig a mountain on this side. and then live there. Because that's what they saw. That's alienation in their mind. They have to justify their humanity. They have to continue re-emphasizing their humanity. And the only way that they saw that those who claim to be humans were whites and carried with it our black colonizers. So if someone gets into parliament, now they are going to, especially these youths, who are saying we want to participate because we want to lead with youths. I can assure you, we also want those graduates. We also want, so it's replicating itself and then tied into that. So the reason why this discourse is very important is to then remove those blinkers. It appreciate firstly that we have not had a better example of leadership. We have not had a better experience of a value system. All of these things are aspirational. And how do we deal from that context and build a society going forward?
Yeah. So I think, to give you a practical example, in Kenyan elections, there's a young guy with a poster telling his time for someone also to eat the man. And coming back to Zimbabwe, there's an institution which is a sort of called Zimbabwe. So it's all about eating, nothing to offer, but people are saying what positions so that they've associated positions with the opportunities to lose, positions with the opportunities to amass wealth, not for the good of the nation. No, they're not even different.
I think this brings us back home. All right, fine.
Probably for me, beyond the alienation, the reason why we have not appreciated the kind of value system is that economic inequality, has created the agents to say no. I mean, this one as of now, I think they left something on the total Mudao mantra that as of now.
Yeah.
But that people appreciate that we need to have. I think the economic inequality has been so deep, and the poverty, and the crisis has been so deep that people say no. It's like you are underwater. So what you want first, before you think about, going to the beach, you just want to have your head out, so that at least you can breathe. And then think about swimming out and then having other, adventures of the sea. So for me, that is what is the immediate need, which people cannot compromise. To say no, if it means I have to go to parliament and eat, fair and so it's uniting people on the edges. So I think there is need of trying to answer that edges and then begin. So this conversation for me then comes out to say, okay, beyond the edges, the nitty-gritties or the solving the torn apart, shape that you was talking about. Beyond that, that's why I think even the beyond 2018, hashtag makes sense for me. That beyond the elections, beyond voting, there is really need of a society that we need to build, where the younger generations, and I think most people have been right to say, the greatest danger to this society has been this generation. We've never seen a functional economy, we've never seen a proper society where corruption doesn't work. So people, that's why they begin to replace that culture. Say, no, I need to be there in GCPD, and build a house where, 7 years ago, engineers would have said it is impossible to actually build a house. But that's why people are building houses. Yeah. So I think it's that immediate need of survival. But beyond that, we then need to make a certain culture in the way of doing things.
Yeah. So does this bring us better in our value system? Yes. Because Canada is going to push how this is not going to parliament, then I'll be fine. If not going to parliament, to deal with it. So we come back to the value systems. We come back to Graliza's argument that it's not just about how it's done anymore. Yeah. It's about, I want to get to my boyfriend and I want to be with my boyfriend. Value system is about the process. And I know by saying this, I'm opening another Pandora's box, which is fine. We will settle this. We will get to value systems and elections. I want us to conclude our shared values. And I stopped this group in the middle of the way because I thought we might as well take care of this whole elections thing with the right frame of mind about what exactly are we dealing with. Can I cheat my elections? Like, can you finish off your results? Quite clearly. See, why are my elections in 2 places apart? Because I told you in the last election I voted for jobs. And jobs won. talking about, but I voted for jobs. And I want someone to interpret for me what I'm talking about, because I'm not even sure what I'm talking about. But what I do know is that I saw a big banner that says, vote for jobs. And I went into the ballot box and I put my X on jobs. And I don't know what we're going to be voting for in 2018, and no one cares. People are saying, let's go and vote. Let's register. Or maybe we'll get to that stage where after we have finished registering, then we'll sit down and say, what are we voting for? Jobs, empowerment, what are the other things that people vote for? Upliftment. Change. I voted for change before. I voted for change before.
What kind of change?
I voted for change. That's my point. I voted for change.
Yeah, but also just maybe to put a precursor to this. I think we must not look into these scenarios that are outplayed as an end in themselves, or simply as a means to an end. They begin to make much more sense in my view when we then look at the continuum of history. They say, where is the society? Are we really coming from? Where are we now and where are we going? And when we do that, it helps us to then identify our claim, which is why I probably I disagree with a lot of this, my fellow young people in terms of whom I really agree with in terms of participation, that you must participate. But if I then speak as an individual, I then tend to deviate from what the group would say. Because look, for me, the struggles that have been fought in Zimbabwe have been also on a continuous plane. You've also talked about the challenges that the people of Zimbabwe faced, but have not. If they look at the kind of resilience and the kind of struggles, I'm a socialist, so the struggles that society have gone through in Zimbabwe are on a continuous, and there's this kind of pass on the baton. Yes, there may be dead generations, for example, in my view. Soon after independence, there was a generation that slept on the job and probably sold out and didn't keep checks on each other. And then suddenly, the 90s generation came in. The guys really said, no, let's begin to question the nation and say, let's have a new set of doing things. And I think for all the failures that anyone can take away from the generation, the Morgan generation, they brought a constitutional order that is completely different from what we're experiencing. And as well, going ahead again as a generation, we must then locate ourselves. What is the biggest contribution we can make to this struggle? Because if we then look at these elections as an end in themselves, we get into the trap that exactly you are saying. That if you vote for change in 2008 and whatever there was defined as change that did not work and then the jobs worked or did not work, you obviously tend to withdraw and view the world as a vicious cycle which is continually consuming its own children. But I tend to view it differently. That it's about saying what can we as a generation really pursue and move society from one end to there. And then from there, we wait for other generations. It's not like we'll end our problems and humanity's problems in our lifetime. We won't. But it's that we must, what Fanon was saying, identify our struggle, be trained to pursue it. If we pursue it, let's pursue it and say, this is how far we've gone, and we pass on the baton.
All right. Right. It mustn't be. Because we know what registering to vote means. It means then voting. And we know what voting then means. But that's not the panacea. And if we as young people sit down and say voting or elections are not the panacea, then what is? And where do elections fit in this world discourse of solving our crisis? Where do elections come in? All right, can we finish your group?
Okay. Number one, it was a tie.
And to agree also on the national question, what exactly is our problem? What exactly do we want to solve? Whereas if we don't know exactly the question we want to answer, then we won't know the values. So I think that is a problem that we have also identified in our spaces, that when we engage people will tell you various problems, issues they are facing. Then at the end of the program, we might end up even not being able to synthesize what the problem is exactly. So I think it's also something that we wanted amongst us, which we need to reach or agree on shared values.
Then the second thing which lesson learned is also that I think we should try to help people to understand why they should vote. It's not enough just to go around saying register to vote, register to vote. But when you ask that question, I also ask myself, during the project that I'm implementing, if I've been asking that question, do you need civic voter education? No. I haven't been answering that question. So I think it's very important that I must be conscious of that. So that when you say people you should go and vote, maybe you should also assist them by saying, the reason why you are voting is because 1, 2, 3, or to register to vote. Then carry on the spirit, I think I will try to
because for me, it's a very, 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 having been grown in a socialist environment, how violence, is a conversation that goes on in the socialist environment. And I'm someone who, obviously, it took me time to appreciate the importance of peace and this value there of peace. And I think from this dialogue, I continue to get the time to introspect on the importance of peace, especially given that within the political cycles, there is nothing for further violence or peace. There are two things. And then within young people, I think this dialogue opens up, for me, displaying that thing that I think should go further for me as a recommendation, because I know that if it took us years to appreciate the importance of peace, what about others? I still feel like this discussion has to be cascaded further. But probably through different platforms like social media and other platforms where young people are present. These are great values on other young people in colleges, so that the multiplier effect begins. Kind of that peace begins with me kind of thing that if I teach a student with all those peace, he can learn. But then something that I learned today, it's obviously that our problem as a country is that we don't have values. All along we've been looking at these big projects of the economy, this and this, but I think it all cascades down to values. You see. And I don't think that conversation has been done before. If it's being done, I don't know, within the political or economic cycles, at a broad missionary to say no. Even if you go deep with the crisis to say, hakuna mabasa, there's no employment, there's no this being caused by so and so, this pointing at fingers at each other. It's because we don't have values. With these values, I think people can start a conversation. What I call the cost of not talking. You suppose we're here because people don't want to talk. People prefer to go to that fighting square. And they don't want to go alone, they want to go with others. So you just go and fight them. They would rather mobilize us to go and fight than, as pride will say, no, let's help them fight them while us eating popcorns and this while they're fighting. So I think that's one thing that I've learned. And I'm very much willing to cascade this into universities, because I feel like this way, intellectuals are calculated with different values and that level of appreciation because of the energy this within young people. We want to use it. So that's why young people, this thing of child soldiers and this different, because they are young, they're running blood. So I think if we begin to have that conversation with young people as agents of peace or peace ambassadors, it can cascade to different parts of our society.
It's from the story that he was the same for them. I need to admit that Zimbabwe are now a nation of cocaine practice. Owners or individual capacities who are making critical decisions, we surely look up to those families. However, what to do in order to get back, we don't usually confront those families. So, what I think maybe for people of my generation, we went to school, primary school, told that if you pass, get 4 units, things will be possible. But we told them no need to get HAC, I will get it to left with the fund. Then we went to go to HAC, we told them no, we need to get it with the kids to opportunities. more for you that I'm not going to go to high school. Eventually, when we go to high school, when we went to the kids, but we found that we didn't really know. Then we went to university, graduate, to see that now I know the kids, we felt that it's not doing it. So what this is started, a lot of people from day to day, even from them to access education, they're breaking the same values. Because if you check things like transitional sex, which is what calculates it, it's rampant in colleges. And parents, if they really know what is happening, how their children manage to get to share the food, yeah, they surely will be in the streets and demonstrating what they will go and really for the values. So, what we have never worked to end anything, we've never said to any man to say, no, this man, I'm safe for him to go to the beach, maybe for Tanzania for weekdays. We don't know how it is like ending. And our heroes, our societal heroes currently, the likes of it's not money that is important for that way, but it's money that comes with an end. So eventually what I'm looking for is a capital scheme. If I see an opportunity to look money and establish myself again, because these are our societal heroes, these are actually more values that are being said. But we all do not agree with them, but we all aspire to benefit the same thing. So moving forward, I think these discussions should actually be taken on a broader level for people to really be made to think, to come both, to really say, I know that, but I'm going to vote, what am I going to vote? Of which, to a large extent, I've also come to realize that those are the ruling part, they have those things. There are simple things like the people of Soto want to come in, posting should come. I think it was also an issue of values in that one. You see most people in the streets, they're saying, we do that. On social media, where we are saying, one shot, one shot. So, even the message, you will discover that political message, politicians are also playing really good to use the vote, which is what is the main part sometimes. For us, it's just another knowledge, but it's what is appealing to most people, because when people go eventually going to the value, they really look at those values. And it's not what they think. That the person who is with the most values came out last, but those least values will form their way to the top. So yeah, I think if you elections, participating in the voting process, registering to vote, there's a lot to do with values. There's a lot to do with the national conscience or the national conscience first. Referred to this earlier.
Involve myself in politics. I saw no reason for politics. But from what I heard from the clip, that you don't have to do it for yourself, but even for the sake of children and so forth, I will vote as well. And also, what I would do is that I also help people with the same mentality which I have, that they have reasons to vote. Because let's take for example, if there are 1 million people like that who see no reason to vote, then that will affect the outcome. And also, going forward for what has been done here, I think also technology will be used to enhance this on platforms like YouTube and so forth, and also it can be written pamphlets and so forth, so that all the others who you can't reach can also know about this.
For me, I think I'm not very light on what the first lesson there is that everyone is a socialist, but very few can actually dare to acknowledge being so. Because exactly the kind of positive values that everyone aspires is the essence of a more humane and socially just society, which does not promote corruption, hate, violence, which is the current system of capitalism, which simply reduces you to a tool of producing profit for the consumption of the few. So I think that's for me a very key lesson that locally in terms of our own dynamics as a country, I realized that when I started to think about values, because I was then titled on how I would take this forward. Because I also had, I always talk with colleagues that I share with that when I'm working on this topic, I want to write something thoughtful about the value system in Zimbabwe. how it has collapsed, and did you even at any point have any? And if not, what is the role as young people need to do in order to have that value system? Because I think big change that we want is not going to come when we don't have those values. So again, there's a way of taking this forward. I invite colleagues so that the passion and energy to really say we can put down this into a booklet and say, in this year of our Lord, young people of that generation, sit down and thought, put our minds together, say this is what we think is the ideal society with respect of values. We think is the best way formulating value system that works. And also I also related that blogger. I think I always touch on those issues, but I think I will now put more emphasis onto it so that we continuously have this deep conversation around values. And then in terms of taking the process forward, I think it's definitely, this has to go to the grassroots. I think you can go to any funeral that you want. You can go to any little cooperative that you want. You can go anywhere. The biggest whisper is Nikebi Award. There's one thing you hear, Nikebi Award, but when that is being spoken, there's no clear way of saying how do we construct that social fabric. And the Award being the Award says, really to broaden it and have it at the lowest stratas of society.
And from what I learned, everyone has their opinion, and this is why, not that we can't win, but like this is why we have different results every time. And whatever result it is, it doesn't mean that if the result is different from what you wanted it to be, it doesn't mean that the next person didn't want that something else.
To decide what we're going to do is going to affect us as individuals, our families, the society, and the nation that we have. So sometimes we find turning ourselves youth has been denigrate. We have limited ourselves, saying it's the adults who needs to participate. But an 18-year-old must also know that he has to vote, Because today he is 18, but tomorrow he'll be 23 and he'll be affected by the same thing. So we need to be inclusive in this, we need to be part of it. And on how we are going to take the lesson forward, I think every day, every time, the issue that...
Yes, for me it was an eye-opener on the issues of values. Because as a youth, as a young person, I'll say that I was a bit short on issues to do with values, but then now I have a clear picture pertaining to values. And I've learned that it is our roles and obligations as youths from different universities to also assist others that are not able to get into the value system. And what I'll do...
different ideas. But what I learned is that as young people, it is important to take a stand in decentralizing whatever information that we get. Because you discover that we are only the few privileged who are able to get such chances to be in such a space. But what is important is also to go and share whatever we learn in such spaces with other colleagues. And also what I think I will take home is the issue and the importance of an election. Number one, I must not participate in an election because I belong to a certain party or I believe in a certain individual that this one can deliver. But I must participate in an election believing in an ideology that a certain individual is selling, which resonates with what I wish and what are my values towards a Zimbabwe that I want. So basically it's what I learned. But to give a way forward, I think it is very important that such spaces must also be created for even ghetto youths who are out there. We must decentralize these types of programs, because we will discover that most people who perpetrate violence, they are not getting such information. You go to Swimba Maranda Fuma, youths which are there, the information that we get here, it's very difficult for them to get.
Sometimes we just look at things on the surface. Like, I actually didn't know there was a determinate values and things that we're discussing today. And also, I think that there is also a lack of knowledge in the society about voting, because I think a lot of people just hear about voting, we just think Zanu-PF and things like that, and you actually don't look beyond what's going to happen
after you vote. And then how I'm going to take this lesson forward, I think maybe raising awareness to the society and actually speaking out, adding more knowledge about voting. And well, my recommendation for this party over some years. So I've learned really why I should vote, and realized that in voting, people really don't vote for things that we want, like exercise, our number one program, but dignity's values we couldn't point out so many, and it's sad you could point so many things about you. So usually, people are not here values when you are voting. And to use this, I'm going to educate people my age, my friends, to send things that I teach at first should be vote. I'm going to instill in them the speed that I just got from me, so that they also have to vote for the Zimbabwean that they want. And also, and the other few. So if we, the majority, take part in this voting, I think we can give this Zimbabwean.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.